Okay, so you lose a ton of weight and your belly vanishes, but what's going on the inside? Well, today we are going to find out. We're talking about massive weight loss and microbiome changes coming up on the exam room. Hello, friends. Welcome to the Exam Room Live, brought to you by the Physicians Committee. I am the weight loss champion, Chuck Carroll. Thanks so very much for watching and downloading in more than 150 countries around the world and making the Exam Room one of the most consumed nutrition podcasts anywhere on the planet today. So here's the deal. I used to weigh 420 pounds. I was as big as life, and then my stomach, as a result, was just a wreck. I remember eating pizza and just doubling over in pain, but that didn't stop me from eating it or a lot of other stuff too. I thought at the time it was an allergy, but could it have been my microbiome? Well, flash forward these years, and now I'm 300 pounds lighter, essentially, and none of that stuff is still going on in my tummy. So why? Was it the allergy or was it the microbiome? We are going to find out. Let's talk about it and what it could mean for you, because the maestro of the microbiome is here orchestrating our health and raising our health IQs. He is the professional of the bathroom confessional and a two-time New York Times bestselling author. Dr. Will Bulsiewicz is making a house call, and if you have a question for Dr. B, go ahead, drop it in the comments or in the chat, and we'll get to as many as we possibly can here on the show today. And with that, let's go ahead and welcome in the man who's got the tools for your healthy stools, Dr. Will Bulsiewicz. What's up, Dr. B?
What's up, Chuck? How we doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. How was the intro today?
Oh, man, you always nail it. It's phenomenal.
You do have the tools for healthy stools, no doubt about it. I want that on your business card. All right, so the microbiome is what we're talking about today, especially for people who have lost a lot of weight like me. Now, I want to set the plate and actually do kind of like a visual here, do something new. We haven't done this before, but I want to walk you through what my old diet used to look like. And you tell me what you think my microbiome used to look like. A lot of people, they always ask, like, how did I get there? And yeah, that's me. That's why they call me the weight loss champion. How did I get there? How did I get to 420 pounds? Well, I notoriously was a Taco Bell fiend. Couldn't go a day without it. And I would go to the drive-thru, wouldn't even have to place an order. They just knew what to make because my order never changed. And this is what I called my daily fix, Dr. B. It started with 2 7-layer burritos, which had about 860 calories, 32 grams of fat, more than 2,000 milligrams of sodium. I do want some credit here because there is lettuce and tomato in the 7-layer burrito. Follow that up with 2 beef grilled stuffed burritos, another 1,400 calories, 64 grams of fat, 4,000 milligrams of sodium. This is not a rolling total. These are just the beef grilled stuffed burritos. Polish that off with Nachos Bel Grande. You see the fat, the calories, the sodium there as well. Chicken quesadilla, 510 more calories, close to 30 more grams of fat, another 1,200 milligrams of sodium. And then this was my favorite. This is just evil genius of food right here. A cheesy potato burrito, which was essentially just like fried potato wedges with like some grade F chili in there and some nacho cheese sauce. And then they would roll it up into tortilla and they would call it the cheesy potato burrito. And I would limit myself to only one of these because it was so good. My palate just couldn't take it. It was so good. So close to 500 calories, 22 grams of fat, another 1,300 milligrams of sodium. And because I was such a good customer and kept this particular Taco Bell in business, they would give me a free caramel empanada. And you see there the fat, the calories, the sodium as well. So when you add it all up in one meal, that's 4,370 calories, 196 grams of fat, more than 10,000 milligrams of sodium, or more than 5 times the recommended daily limit. But that was just one meal. I never really ate breakfast. My day would begin at lunch at Boston Market. I would eat half of an entire rotisserie chicken and 3 large sides. Then I would get 6 taquitos from 7-Eleven right next to the hot dogs, buffalo chicken taquitos, 6 of those and 2 big bottles of Gatorade for the drive home. And then I would eat pizza. I would eat 1.5 to 2 large pizzas by myself, and then go to Taco Bell every single day. And so that's how I got up to 420 pounds. The total daily caloric intake there, 10,000 calories. So that is how I got there. So you look at the old me, version 1.0, In the shirt there, notice I'm eating a salad. I want some bonus points for that too. But what was my microbiome probably looking like at that point, Dr. B?
Well, unfortunately, I don't think it was very happy. And yeah, and there's a number of reasons for this. So, first of all, let me say, I've been a Taco Bell lover myself, and like my meals weren't necessarily on that level, but Chuck, on my side, when I was going through my hard times, which those of you who have read my book, you know that I was 50 pounds overweight when I was 30 years old. That was in the middle of my medical training, and that was not a coincidence, and it wasn't exclusively a Taco Bell thing, but it was very common for me to work a 30-hour shift. So I would go in at 6 in the morning one day, and I would go home the following day at 12 noon. And after working 30 hours straight, being exhausted, being very hungry, many times not even eating while I'm working, I would go straight to Taco Bell and spend $25. And as you know, Chuck, what you just showed, those 4,000 calories, that's probably about $25 worth of food right there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, and I think that the thing about this is it's not to vilify, weight gain or to vilify calories, but really it's more a conversation about healthy eating and the quality of our diet. And what we see with this type of food at Taco Bell or other types of fast food is that a couple of things. So you mentioned the salt. So excessive salt intake is bad for our gut microbiome. You mentioned the fat. So when we have unhealthy forms of fat, there are healthy forms. Like there certainly are certain fats that are good that we should gravitate towards. But there are also unhealthy forms of fat. Those are the kinds that you would find in, for example, a beef burrito because of the saturated fat intake, the saturated fat content. That also is bad for our microbiome. We talk about refined carbohydrates. So refined carbohydrates could be sugar. It could also be white flour. And these refined carbohydrates are basically a main line for our blood sugar, right? With zero or close to zero fiber content. And every single one of those burritos is wrapped in a white flour tortilla. And if you look at the number of calories that you get in a tortilla, it's actually shockingly high. And it's, again, all just mainline, basically sugar without any fiber content. And then, like, even the redeeming parts, take the lettuce and the tomatoes, put that to the side because those are a very small part of just one of the burritos. But, like, the potatoes, the problem is, like, to me, potatoes are not inherently bad. But when we fry our potatoes, the process of frying anything and cooking at high heat in oil actually is bad for the microbiome. So basically, the entirety of this picture is a setup to basically punch the microbiome. And, if we were to revise your slides, Chuck, the thing that we should add is, what is the fiber content? Right? Because, like, when 4,000 calories, you might have had 5 or 6 grams of fiber.
Yeah, I'd be really curious to go back and add that up. I should do that. That's a really good point.
Yeah. It's not much. Because other than the lettuce and tomatoes. Well, so some of them had beans, but many of them did not. And the other thing that I'll add is that the beans at Taco Bell are not the same as cooking beans at home, and you can taste the difference. And part of it is the salt content, but the other part of this is we just don't know what's in their formula, right? Because they have a bag. If you were working at Taco Bell, you would have this big bag of beans that you would basically like snip open and pour it out. And what actually is in there? That's the question, because it's not just beans. And I'm quite convinced that there's other preservatives or other things that are in there that are potentially inflicting harm on our microbiome. I don't know about you. If I cook a bean burrito at home, I feel great.
Yeah.
If I literally get a bean burrito vegan at Taco Bell, a vegan bean burrito, just the beans, the tortilla, and then some pico de gallo on it, I don't feel well. Something's different. I don't know what's going on there, but something's different.
Yeah. I'd be curious.
So nonetheless, I think that the point from my perspective is that what we have here are a number of different things, whether it's the refined carbohydrates, whether it's the salt, excessive salt intake, whether it is the saturated fat content, whether it's the complete absence of fiber, whether it's the sugar that's on the empanada, or the syrup and the corn syrup that's going into this sort of caramel style stuff that the apples are in with the empanada, the fried potatoes. You go down the line, we have multiple different things here that are potentially inflicting harm on the microbiome, and there's nothing to rebalance and recalibrate this. That's the problem. Like, there's no fiber content. There's nothing to help support the microbes, even though we're kind of punching them in the face.
Yeah, no kidding. You don't think that the half of the chicken or the Boston market sides or the taquitos or pizza earlier in the day would help offset the Taco Bell? Is that what you're saying?
No, I don't think so. And look, those are things that I used to eat back in the day too, right? So, I mean, I think we both in our own way were kind of going through parallel issues, and the manifestations in our body were different. I wasn't 420 pounds. I was definitely overweight, but I had my own sort of health issues that I was dealing with as the result of this fast food diet that I was eating. So, yeah. And, I guess if we zoom out for a moment, the question is like, what happens to the microbiome within the context of this type of eating beyond just the individual sort of ingredients or different, specific nutrients in there? What actually happens in the microbiome when we're, eating, let's call them hyperpalatable foods, right? Foods that allow you to eat 10,000 calories. Because if there were adequate fiber content in there, there's no way you could do that. There's no way you could eat 10,000 calories if there was adequate fiber in there. You'd feel too full. You would stop. And so, like, what happens in the microbiome when we are missing our energy balance, right? Because that's what this is: excessive allergy intake relative to our energy needs. And the answer is that we lose diversity within the microbiome. We lose diversity, and simultaneously we are empowering the inflammatory microbes. In essence, what I'm saying here, Chuck, is that this is a setup for dysbiosis. And it's a dysbiosis. Dysbiosis means damage to the gut microbiome. It is a dysbiosis that is going to make your metabolism less healthy. It's going to start to work against you. And we're setting up a vicious cycle here where you have poor blood sugar control, where you have poor blood fat control, where you are not feeling full after you eat. And these are consequences that come from the gut microbiome within this setting, but they make it harder to break free. They make it harder to break the cycle. And this is the challenge that you faced. And I'm glad that you're here and doing well.
Yeah, thank you, man. It was wild. So let's take a look at just kind of the diversity of the microbiome back then versus what it is now. I mean, you could say that I was eating a wide array of foods with all the different items on the menu, but certainly the menu today is definitely a little bit more expansive. Diversity of the microbiome we've talked about in the past and its importance, but how much more diversity would you estimate I have today versus back in the day?
I think it's substantial. So what we do know is that when you lose weight, regardless of the means of how you lose weight, and there are many different approaches to how you do that, the microbiome changes without a doubt. The microbiome changes. You add diversity back to your microbiome because it's allowed to flourish. It's given the breathing room because it's not being constantly attacked. It's allowed to flourish. You add diversity back, and simultaneously you are recalibrating it in the sense that you are no longer with a disproportionate number of inflammatory bacteria. You are now bringing back the anti-inflammatory bacteria, and the anti-inflammatory bacteria are going to dominate, and they're going to win, and they're going to outshine the inflammatory microbes. And this is how you get your body back to being healthy, where you can see and feel the difference. You can see the difference in your skin. You can see the difference when you look in the mirror and how you feel and your radiance. And simultaneously on the inside, you feel totally different. And that can manifest in so many ways, which could be your energy levels, but it could also be your self-esteem and your self-confidence. There's so many aspects to this.
I want to take a question from Terrible Lotus at 1218. This is a brilliant question. They say, when you switch to a better diet, where does the good bacteria come from that starts living in the gut? Is it just from the food itself? Is it from the environment? Where does that good bacteria come from?
That's a great question. Thank you, Terrible Lotus. And by the way, I love the eyeball icon there. It's pretty cool.
They're watching you.
For those of you. Pretty cool. All right. So Where did the microbes come from? There's a couple of things. So first of all, there was actually a paper that I don't think we've had the chance to discuss yet, Chuck, or if we did, it was just in passing, that came out this summer where they showed that actually our food has a microbiome and that there's a part of our microbiome that is the result of our food choices, not because of feeding the microbes, but because of actual transfer from our food choices of microbes into ours. So there's a sharing of our microbiome that occurs with our food. Yes, this is clearly apparent with fermented foods. And we know that people who add fermented foods to their diet add back microbes that they didn't previously have. That's been shown. But what I'm saying is not just fermented foods, but any food has a microbiome. And particularly when it's a raw food, and by the way, this is not an argument in favor of a raw-only diet, but when it's a raw food, that food has a microbiome, and you are then receiving some of those microbes and you're recruiting them into your microbiome. So this is, again, like it's this concept of you are not like living in isolation. You are the product of your environment. And that is an environment that is like the world that surrounds you, but that also is the environment of your own choosing, including the things that you put into your mouth, choose to chew and swallow. So the other thing, Chuck, is in addition to recruiting microbes from our dietary choices, the other thing is that sometimes microbes go dormant. And dormant basically is like, hey, there's no food supply. So they shrink and they shrink and they shrink, and now they're not detectable. So our tests don't know that they're there because they're below the level of detection. But they are in fact there. They're just asleep because they don't have any energy supply, and therefore they can't really do anything to help you. And when you start feeding them again, they wake up and they eat and they grow stronger and they come back online and they do their job. And this is part of where this concept comes from, is that when your body is being deprived of what it needs in order to thrive, then you would expect a diminished microbiome. But when your body is back to thriving with a diverse, varied diet that includes plant-based foods, then you add back microbes.
That kind of brings us to a question Amanda submitted ahead of time. You were talking about the dormant microbes there. She's wondering, how does the microbiome respond to fasting or long-term calorie restriction? Does a lot of the microbiome just go dormant at that point?
Yeah, so it depends on what kind of fasting we're talking about, because I feel like the term intermittent fasting has become this umbrella term, and I want to actually, I think that we need to be a little bit more precise in our language, in our semantics. So to me, time restricted eating, which is a daily practice where you limit your eating window within the day, is different than fasting, right? Because fasting to me is basically saying, oh, no, I'm going to extend longer and longer and longer the period of time that I'm not eating, but it's not a daily routine, right? Like that to me is a point of distinction. What I do know is this, Chuck. Actually, at Zoe, we did a study called the Big If study. Big If. If stood for intermittent fasting. And again, I don't necessarily agree with the way that we use intermittent fasting here, but we did a study with 40,000 people. And we had them reduce down their eating window, all right, to 10 hours per day. So 14 hours of fasting, 10 hours of eating. And what we found is quite fascinating. People with this concept, they improved their energy levels. They had more focus. They improved their mood. They had less bloating. And believe it or not, they were less hungry. And if you actually dug into the details of what was happening during the first 48 hours of introducing this new way to eating, people actually got a little more hungry in the first 2 days. But then after that, as they committed to this idea of 14 hours without eating and 10 hours of actual eating time, that actually their hunger, their appetite went down. So their body recalibrated to this new idea. So that's quite fascinating. Now, if there's some people who believe in long-term fasting. I'm not a big believer in long-term fasting. And the reason why is because our body has, if you look at the gut lining, we have this thing called the mucin layer. And the mucin layer is basically a layer of mucus. Think of like a thick gel where there's microbes that live there. And actually, believe it or not, they need to be fed in order to thicken up the mucus, because otherwise it gets thinner, thinner, and thinner until it gets to a point where it actually becomes harmful. So, and what makes the mucus thick is fiber. So if you completely and totally fast for an extended period of time, then actually you are thinning out your mucus layer, and at some point it will start to become harmful to your body. So from my perspective, I'm not a big fan of long-term fasting. I think that like people who eat an unhealthy diet, like if you look at the diet that you and I had 10 years ago, we would be better off on some level with some form, whether it be time-restricted eating or occasionally fasting. We probably would be better off allowing our gut microbiome to heal on some level because we keep punching it in the face. But, again, but on the flip side, for a person who's eating a plant-based diet, for a person who's eating a healthy diet, yes, you can make these little tweaks, but they're not as powerful as the choices that you make with your fork.
For sure. Clarity and points of fasting there. You were talking about 14:10. Somebody in the chat, 703 via 408, is wondering whether 16:8 would be better than 14:10. Would the 2 hours make a big difference?
So it's a great question, and I don't think that there's a universal answer, to be totally honest with you. I think it depends on the individual person and how you feel. So I don't even necessarily feel that people need to immediately go to 14:10. I think that 12 and 12 can be a great place to start. All right. So, and that basically would mean that you have your dinner and there's no midnight snack or no late night snack. There's no alcohol in the evening. You give your body a 12-hour break. Right. If you start there, that actually starts to have a beneficial effect on your microbiome, 12 hours. As you extend it, see how you feel. And if you find that you are thriving with this approach, keep going, right? Energy levels are up, mood is up, focus is up, hunger is down. Cool. You're in a great spot. But on the flip side, like, don't force yourself to do something that feels unnatural.
All right, let's get Christopher in. He submitted ahead of time as well. Are there specific bacteria that promote or hinder weight loss? So I guess we can get real nerdy with this one if we wanted to.
Yeah. Well, the answer is yes. The answer is yes. And these are the inflammatory microbes. They want you to consume sugar. They want you to consume saturated fat. Okay, this is what feeds them. They thrive on it. But the problem is that they're going to throw your metabolism out of whack, which, by the way, when your metabolism goes out of whack, then what happens? You continue to overeat. You continue to crave sugar. You continue to crave saturated fat, right? So, and that's how they win. And we know with clarity that these microbiome changes will affect your insulin sensitivity, which is the root cause of type 2 diabetes. They will affect your blood fat response. They will affect your appetite. And this is how we fall metabolically out of balance and end up in this position of craving these foods, overeating, and not being able to stop.
All right, Daniel is next. My brother, are there specific foods that promote a healthy gut and support weight loss simultaneously? So they really want to do the body good and maybe double up. Is there any foods that would make Dr. B's list for both?
Yeah, and the beauty of this is that you can get so many, so many wins with just a couple simple choices. And it's not complicated, Chuck. It's not like, hey, here's your magic food. Here's the the green coffee bean or whatever that's going to like make you lose weight and do all these magical things. No. Focus on plants. Focus on plants, because when you eat whole plant foods of any variety, they have fiber, they have healthy fats, they have healthy protein. And these are the things that are satiating. Fiber is not the only thing that stimulates the release of GLP-1. By the way, GLP-1 is the gut hormone that Ozempic and Wegovy, which are the popular drugs, semaglutide, are replacing within the body when you take those medications. So fiber is not the only thing that causes the release of GLP-1, but it is powerfully the thing that causes the release of GLP-1. And when you complement it with healthy protein and healthy fat, which you get from plant-based sources, this is how you get the job done. So this is how you feel full.
All right, Maria's checking in from Argentina today. Maria, thanks for watching and joining us. Kamisha says, the perspective that you shared is riveting, Chuck. I sigh when I think about all the sweet treats I ate when I was younger. And I guess here's an interesting point that we may want to talk about is that, you can't exactly go back and unring a bell, but you can, make sure that you're doing everything in your power to stay healthy today and tomorrow.
Yep.
When it comes to the microbiome specifically, is there any long-term damage by eating such a calorically fat-dense fast food diet? Or is that something that once you've kind of gotten back on a healthier path, it's good to go?
I haven't seen a good study for us to fully answer this question, Chuck. I tend to be of the belief, based upon everything that I've seen with the microbiome, that this is an incredibly forgiving part of our body. That we have the opportunity to make choices, that there is an opportunity, and we can be hopeful about it, for us to get our health back by making choices that empower our microbiome. And I'm not of the belief that your microbiome will hold it against you. I am of the belief, I will say, it's varying levels of challenge and difficulty for each of us. It's not the same level of difficulty for all of us. So there are some people who have deeper, more challenging scenarios. And, I feel like the situation that you were in, Chuck, is an example of that. And I would also argue that a person who has inflammatory bowel disease, like their microbiome is not going to heal and get back to a healthy place in a matter of weeks. It's just not. There's no way. It's going to take longer. But the opportunity is there, and I don't see that it ever ends. I don't see that there's such a thing as, oh, you can't get back to a better place. And I'll just speak for myself to say that, I literally, Chuck, and this is not intending to toot my horn. This is just being honest. I literally feel like I reversed aging. I feel younger in my mid-40s right now than I did at 29 years old. People say, oh, well, it's like the classic joke, like, how old are you? Oh, I'm 29, ha, 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 ha. Dude, I'm 44 and I feel great and I wouldn't change a thing about it.
Yeah, look at that healthy glow on you, sir. You're looking younger and younger every time you come on the show. Every month. It's like, who was the dude that reversed aged? Wasn't that a Jim Carrey film? Was it? No.
Was it Benjamin Button?
That's the one. Yeah, you are truly Benjamin Button, my friend.
Well, but I think though that these, by the way, I think that there's something that we can point out here though, Chuck, which is that you can see these changes in a person, and it's hard to put your finger on it, but it's there. It's there. The glow, the skin, the health of their skin, right? The complexion, like these are things that you can kind of tell, and these are without a doubt correlated to the changes that are happening on the inside with our microbiome.
Which brings us to an interesting question. Now, I look at cheat days from the perspective of food addiction and not wanting to relapse, just as an alcoholic wouldn't celebrate sobriety with a beer. But I want to talk about what would happen if somebody does, have that healthy diet 6 out of the 7 days of the week, but on that 7th day, it's whatever. It's kind of a diet free-for-all. How does the microbiome react there? How long does it take to kind of get back to a healthier state after you've had that all-day binge?
Well, the microbiome thrives on momentum and consistency. And so what you would be doing there, in a way, is 6 days of building and then 1 day of taking a wrecking ball to what you just did. And so from my perspective, I can't argue in favor of the idea of like healthy eating on weekdays and unhealthy eating on the weekends, right? I can't get behind this, because even though you are better off than consistently 7 days a week unhealthy eating, I feel like you're still undoing a lot of the potential benefit that you would get by just maintaining consistent habits. And it's not to say perfection. Anyone who knows me knows that I don't stand for perfection. I stand for doing your best and progress. And so to me, like focusing on that, focusing on progress, recognizing that it's okay to have the sweet treat once in a while. But let's not go and flog the body. And, I should add this, like, Chuck, out of curiosity. If you did something like that, how would you feel? I would feel horrible. It would take me a couple of days. I would feel horrible for like probably 3-4 days.
For sure. And think about what you said earlier in terms of going to Taco Bell and even getting the vegan burrito there, and your body can tell a difference. So if you did that for not just one, but 3 meals in a day, I would say that you probably feel 3 times as bad, definitely sluggish the next day when you wake up. I remember breaking my diets back in the day and not feeling great and really struggling to go back on them. I just don't think that the reward is worth the risk or the penalty at all. I just don't see it.
Maybe this is an age-related thing for me. I don't know, because like back in, or maybe I've just normalized healthy eating in my life, and so when I deviate from that, I definitely feel the difference. But actually, like, I've stopped going to Taco Bell. I can't even tell you the last time that I went to Taco Bell, and the reason why I've stopped, even though I could again fully go, and I would get, if I were to go, I would get the black bean burrito. And I would get it vegan with the pico de gallo, right? And that's the healthiest possibility that you can do there. But I feel like trash.
Yeah.
It's just not worth it.
Yeah.
I don't like the way that I feel. So even though it's convenient and inexpensive, I would rather do the thing that's less convenient and more expensive because it makes me feel better.
For sure. For sure. I can tell you the last time I was at Taco Bell. It's been 15 years. It was 15 years this past August. And I mean, like, but the funny thing is the way that the mind works, man, forget microbiome, just the way that the mind works. There are still times I will see an ad for Taco Bell on TV where they've come up with their newest item. And I'm just like, that looks pretty good.
You know what? That to me is like conceptually similar to an alcoholic, right?
Yeah.
In the sense that like that's evidence of true addiction, because it's hard to like completely buck it even though it's been 15 years. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not that I'm giving in. I'm not cocky about it. I just know what my limits are, and I'm pretty confident in the ramifications that I want no part of. Let's take a question from Jane at 1227. This is another good one. How do you learn about all of this, since microbiome seems like a buzzword trend? If you look online about the microbiome, it is everywhere, and people are using it to sell their stuff. This is a conversation that really extends beyond microbiome, but for the purposes of today, Jane's got a really good question, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think like whether we're talking about the microbiome or some other trend or I mean, frankly, just the news in general, I think that we have to have our trusted sources that we believe in, and and I think that those are ultimately, that responsibility falls to the individual. So, like on my side, being a potential source, all I know is that I can come forward and do my best to rigorously evaluate the evidence and to try to put high quality information out into the world with the hope that you will find it and you will believe in it, because I really sincerely believe it can help you. Right. And that comes from a position, from my perspective, of authenticity. Like, that I'm the guy who dreamed of being a medical doctor, and here I am, and I'm a medical doctor, and I have an opportunity to impact millions of people's lives. So let me do it right. Right. And I take that job and that responsibility very seriously. But that doesn't mean that everyone in the world is following what I say, or that everyone in the world even is aware that I exist. And ultimately, if you're asking the question of like, what is the truth in the microbiome, you have to find a source that you believe in that can feed you something that is truthful. And so I think that ultimately, like, this is where it comes back to. It's the responsibility of the individual person to say, like, who are my sources? Let me vet my sources. Let me make sure that they're sharing accurate information and that I really sincerely trust them.
Well, I'll give you 2 great ones on Instagram at the Gut Health MD, and website, theplantfedgut.com. Those are your sources, my friends. And of course, 2 more, Fiber Fueled and the Fiber Fueled Cookbook. Pick them up. Hey, it's a big Prime Day, and maybe the books are on sale, and maybe you can get them at a price, huh?
Yeah, and the beauty of it too is that, by the way, high quality information doesn't need to be expensive.
Not on Prime Day big deals.
This is the advantage of so there are many disadvantages to the internet. There are many disadvantages to social media, but this is the actual advantage that exists, which is that like my social media is a tremendous amount of effort. And yet, like, to the people who follow me, it's completely free. This is a free resource that I've created to provide for you. On my website, theplantfedgut.com, I have an email list. This is connected to my community of 200,000 people. And we're all there together with the same mission, which is to improve the health of our gut and reap the rewards in terms of our health. And there's no cost to being on my email list. It's completely free. And I put great effort. Like, we're talking between social media and my email list, many, many hours per week that I put into basically creating these resources. I write them myself. Or my books, like, I literally, Chuck, spend a year writing a book, a year.
I know you do. You've got your booth over at the Starbucks by your house, man. It's carved out.
That's true. They know me very well.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, I get free refills in my coffee. They take care of me. But nonetheless, like, I spend a year doing this. And the thing is, like, I appreciate people who want to support my work and buy the book. But you also don't have to. You can go to the library and borrow it for free. And then if you love it and you want to buy it, buy it. So, but this is my point, is that as a point of entry, this is completely, there are so many things that I work really hard on and I share completely for free. And I want people to take advantage of that.
Take advantage of the free stuff, but also, if you are looking to spend a little bit today, take advantage of these deals on Amazon, both Fiber Fueled and the Fiber Fueled Cookbook. Limited time deal on the audiobooks. So if you're a walk and listen kind of a person, yeah, man, look at that right there, right at top, right at the top.
For both of them?
Yeah, right there.
Okay, can I comment on that real quick?
Go for it, bro.
All right, cool. So first of all, a little background. I'm going to pull back the curtain on the book writing industry and being an author. So I'm actually really glad that I didn't have to read the entirety of my book, Fiber Fueled, because I've discovered it is so much work. So people who are like voice actors and who do this for a living, I have tremendous respect for them, because, like, I can't even tell you how intense and hard it is to go into a studio and to actually spend days at a time completely locked in and on the whole time for like 8 hours a day. It's insane. That being said, I've had really, really great feedback about the person who read both the Fiber Fueled and the Fiber Fueled Cookbook. And when I did the Fiber Fueled Cookbook, I did something special. I went to my publisher and I said, look, this is a cookbook. I know we're going to sell it as an audiobook. We should, because there's so much more to this book than just recipes. But I want to make it special. So let me offer something that you can't find anywhere else. Like, you can't find in the regular book, whatever version you have. You can only find it in the audio version. And so basically what you'll find in the audio version of the Fiber Fueled Cookbook is that at the end of each chapter, you'll hear me. And I'm going to talk to you about the specific things from that chapter that I want you to take away, that I think are the most important takeaways. Like, I'm going to summarize the key points. And the reason that I did this is because I thought it'd be kind of cool to be able to, like, connect with you on the audio format. And all the recipes are there. You get the photography, you get everything. But you also get this little extra element. So I'm kind of proud of that.
That's very
not
cool.
Not a lot of people buy the audiobook. That's why I feel compelled to plug it, because I put some extra effort into it.
Well, it's getting some love in the chat right now. Kamisha 1240, I love the audiobook for Fiber Fueled. Due for another listen again. CC 1242, I have the audiobook for Fiber Fueled and it's really good. So yeah, man. And look, I'm not saying that I could do the current reader justice. But if you ever do the Fiber Fueled comic book, now I'm your guy. You put me in there with 30 pages and I will knock you out a home run every single time, my man. Every single time.
Amazing. Love it.
Just saying that. The Fiber Fueled comic book. Team up with your son. Have some fun. All right. Let's grab one final question. And this is a beautiful one. This is this is everything that you love about food and life. I mean, these are your two favorite things anyway.
Oh, here we go.
Prester John 1240. What is coffee's impact on the microbiome? There it is.
Boom. Yeah.
There
you just, Chuck, you're the point guard. You just threw me an alley-oop and I'm jumping up to tomahawk it down. Here we go. All right. So first of all, before I enter into a conversation about one of the things that I absolutely love, which is coffee, let me be the first to say that coffee is not for everyone. So don't feel bad if coffee is not for you. There are about 10% of people who get diarrhea from coffee. So, and if it makes you feel unwell, that's you shouldn't force yourself to drink it. My wife is incredibly caffeine sensitive, where if she has a cup of coffee in the afternoon, she will not sleep that night, even one cup. So anyway, but it turns out that coffee contains many things that are great for our microbiome. In fact, believe it or not, Chuck, tell me if you knew this, that the polyphenols in coffee is actually the number one source of antioxidants in the American diet. Did you know that?
Shut the front door. I had no idea. I had no.
I
I'm
thought that
dead
was
serious.
going
I
in a
had no
different
idea.
direction when you said shut the, and then there's an F, and I was like, oh, okay, Chuck.
Ooh,
Spicy.
No.
Spicy for the exam room.
No, you got to pay extra for that.
Yeah, that's not really our style. This is clean family fun here. Anyway, yeah. So coffee actually is the number one source of antioxidants in the American diet. Coffee also, by the way, does contain some soluble fiber. Both of these things, the polyphenols and the soluble fiber, those are actually prebiotic, which means that they feed and fuel our gut microbiome. And with that comes the expectation that that coffee will in fact have an impact on the microbiome. And we do know this. In fact, there's a specific bacteria called Wasonobacter, and Wasonobacter saccharolyticus is actually quite strongly associated with coffee drinking. And what's fascinating is that of all the things that exist within our diet, Chuck, believe it or not, the most powerful association that exists is the connection between our microbiome and coffee. And the question would be, well, why is that? Is it because coffee is the healthiest thing on the planet? Is coffee literally the number one thing for your microbiome? The answer is no, it's not. What it is if you're a coffee drinker, you are consistent. You do it all the time, right?
Oh,
and this is the exemplification. We are exemplifying the power of consistency. When coffee emerges as the number one association with our microbiome, because what this is showing us is if you make small, simple choices, you can have a profound effect on your microbiome. And whatever that choice is, even if it's as humble and simple as coffee, it can make a beneficial change that's profound. And that is my argument in favor of consistency.
Do you think we could do a full 30 minutes on coffee?
Probably.
All right, let's do it.
We could brew it. We could do all kinds of stuff with coffee.
I mean, I'm looking at the chat right now, and it's just like everybody is talking about coffee. So I'm thinking, like, why don't we just do the coffee special next time, right?
Yeah, Susan mentions caffeine gives her atrial fibrillation, which is an abnormal heart rhythm. So again, there are some people that coffee is not an appropriate choice for. There are some people who are caffeine sensitive. By the way, tea also has caffeine. That being said, like tea, both black tea and green tea are also wonderfully healthy for the gut microbiome as well.
You still get the microbiome type of benefits if you're drinking decaf?
So you would still get microbiome benefits by drinking decaf. Yes, it's not exactly the same. I mean, caffeine has benefits in terms of brain function. So there's cognitive benefits that we get from the caffeine. That being said, again, like caffeine is not for everyone. So like, whereas I believe her name was Susan. Susan gets atrial fibrillation for caffeine. My wife gets insomnia. She can't sleep. There's some people who get anxious. So it's not for everyone, but yeah.
Well, the plantfedgut.com, the courses there definitely are for everyone. What else do you have cooking in your life right now, man? What's shaking?
Well, so let's talk about the courses.
Let's do it.
We have the Plant Fed Gut Masterclass, which is my sort of, to me, this is like a college level course with Dr. B, right? Imagine that I'm the instructor and you're going to sit down for a 7-week series of lectures where there's daily lectures, there's materials that go with it, like a textbook. There's also audio lessons, video lessons, recipes, like basically everything that I could come up with to make an amazing course experience is in the Plant Fed Gut Masterclass. But then I have all these additional accessory courses that people can take, one on constipation, one on acid reflux, and then I have 3 that are about food intolerances. So one is like a general food intolerance one is a FODMAP one, and one is a histamine one. And then finally, I have a bloating course. And so if you are someone that has that you want a specific deep dive into constipation, acid reflux, bloating, or food intolerances, just know, like, here are these resources. And if you believe in my work, then you know that you can trust that you're going to get a great experience because I'm sharing with you in these courses.
All right, now we've got a link to the plantfedgut.com. So if you want to be taught by the professor of poop and get your PhD, as in pretty hefty dump, the plantfedgut.com is where you're going to want to go. Thank you. I see that reaction. That's exactly what I was going for, man. I love it. So anyway, man, this is great. Coffee is on the table next time you're on the show, man. I can't wait for it. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Amazing. Thank you, Chuck.
Thank you, man. Oh, man, you just make my job so much fun. Speaking of jobs, if you're looking to work with us here at the show and at the Physicians Committee, we have an opening right now for a social media associate. So if you love you some TikToks, if you love playing on the gram, if Facebook is your life, we would love to hear from you. Head over to pcrm.org/careers to apply today. And for this day, that is all the time that we have, my friends. So thank you one more time to Dr. B for being here and raising our gut health IQs, and to the crew behind the scenes for making the magic happen. Thank you, guys. And to you, exam roomies, great questions today. I hope that we have really helped to inspire and enlighten you and raise your gut health IQs and taken your microbiome knowledge to that next level and the level higher even. And for everybody here at the Physicians Committee, I am the weight loss champion, Chuck Carroll. We will talk to you again very soon, but until then, keep it plant-based.